Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have our agenda for the evening in front of us. I'll ask for a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
We have a motion by Nagel, second by Luthens to approve the agenda. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. As we look at the agenda for this evening, we'll see that we will be beginning with our auditor treasurer, and we'll go to our assessor. There will be breaks in there for public comments. If we can keep those comments to that presentation, and then we'll move on to the next. It might just help clear up all the different points that will be coming forward tonight. So as we move along, I'll then call on our auditor treasurer, Connie Kurtzwig.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Truth in Taxation hearing. Tonight we will be explaining the 2024 proposed tax levy and budget. We will also be providing a forum for public input. This meeting is not to discuss individual parcel information, whether that is value, classification, or taxes. If you do have questions regarding your individual parcel data, we will be providing time to take your name and phone number for a future call or visit. McLeod County Assessor Sue Schultz will now present the review of 2023 valuation for taxes payable in 2024.
Good evening. The process that we start every year starts as of January 2nd of every given year. Every year we do go view properties. One-fifth of every taxing district has to be reviewed every year. Any permits that are taken out in that given year is viewed and valued, and then those are calculated as of January 2nd the following year for that construction. The assessor will gather the information such as the characteristics of the buildings, the size of the lot, the age, the quality, any kind of extra features. If there's decks, sheds, patios, anything like that will add additional values to your property. We compute the value, we put it into a computerized system, and then once we have your base value, we adjust it towards the market. In 2023, for the taxes payable in 2024, we do what's called a sales ratio study. And what that is that we determine whether or not our value is within 90 to 105% of the market. Now, this is a state requirement. It's not a county policy. We are required to be within that 90 to 105% of the market. If we are not, then the state will come in. If we don't make those adjustments, the state comes in and does it for us. So we are monitored by the Department of Revenue to make sure that we are doing what statute says that we should. Our sales study runs from October to September. So for the 2023 valuation, sales that occurred from October of 2021 through September of 2022 determine our value. And like I said, new construction is added. If improvements were done in 2022, that increase of value is added for the 2023 taxes payable for 2024. And even if it's a partially finished, it doesn't have to be all the way done. So we do prorate whatever's done as of January 2nd. So the numbers that you see up there right now are what we call our ratios. So these are the numbers that occur when we compared our assessed value to what the sales did. As you can see, our agricultural column is by far what I would term our worst. Our ratios on there are significantly lower than the 90% minimum that we were required to be at. With that fact, that's why a lot of you guys saw significant increase in the agricultural values that we had in our county this year. Residential is the next column over there. Residential didn't see quite as bad as a significant. We had a couple of pocketed areas that were significant. Helen in our township and then Plato, which is the next screen in our cities, saw a significant increase. In commercial and industrial in the townships, we just simply don't have much. Want to go to the cities? So in the cities, these are what occurred there. So like I said, we are supposed to be between 90 and 105. So when you look at the residential sales, or ratios, excuse me, that gives you the indication of what kind of value changes that we had to do. This screen here, or this shows the average percent changes. So when we look at the ratio, we have to adjust our value up to get above that 90%. It's across the board value change, but there can be a little bit difference if there was some changes made during the assessor's quintile, if they adjusted some value, removed buildings, added depreciation. So these are average changes. As you can see, the residential, Helen Township went up 20%, Hutch Township 13%. The commercial industrial were adjusted, and then the agricultural is where we took the biggest hit this year.
Question. Up and around Grove go down one percent.
That's on residential, and like I said, that's an average. It just where the numbers, if there was a property that we adjusted depreciation to, it could be a downward trend.
Thank you.
On the city part of it, there again, Broughton took a 17%, Plato a 24%. Those were some of our worst areas that we saw this year for the residential. We did adjust apartments significantly. There, our ratio too was significantly low. And those saw some 20% increases as well. So as you can see, it is not a set change throughout the county. It does vary by taxing district and by classification. So these are the overall increases that occurred. So agriculture on average went up roughly around 30%, residential 7%, commercial industrial 1%, and then the apartments on average of 17%. When you see these kind of significant changes on classification, it can cause a tax shift on your property taxes. What happens is that when a particular classification increases more than another one, it shifts that tax burden onto that classification and reduces it on the other one. So your value can impact your property taxes, and obviously it does. But the budget set the tax, the dollars that the taxing authorities need to run their business. So that's the pie. That's the whole pie. Your estimated market value is your share of that cost of government, or your slice of pie. Factors that it can influence or affect your individual property taxes: the value change, like I said, from individual properties, value changes by classification, any kind of new construction. A classification change can affect your taxes, as well as a homestead change. The estimated market value on your truth and taxation notices are final, and they are not subject to be able to change at tonight's hearing. Those appeals should have been done back in April when the valuation notices went out, and those value changes were where we notified you of those. Once we reach past the County Board of Equalization in June, those values are final, and they cannot be changed until the next year. But that doesn't mean that we don't want to have conversation with you and see if there's anything that we can look at for your property. So today, what will happen is that I will leave the room, and if you want to come with me, we can go into the room next door and we can talk more about value. This meeting is specifically about budgets and not about value, but we certainly are willing to have conversation with you, and then we can take your name and information over there and have the assessor in your area have call you up and go through your individual properties with you. Is there any questions?
Sue, could I just have you explain, especially focusing on the agricultural side, when the sales come in, you have to adjust the dollars to meet that proper ratio, and then if you do not increase enough, what happens at that point?
So like this year, we fell short. I raised agricultural values 20%. We missed the ratio, and the state came in and gave us another 10%. It's called the state board meetings. That happens in June. We have to report information to the state, well, basically 4 times a year, twice from my office and twice from Connie's office. They take a look at our value and make sure that we are adjusting our values by what we need to meet to get to that ratio. And if it doesn't happen, we do get a state board increase, and they come in and make those changes for us.
And could I also have you just have a couple comments on where the homestead credits do not keep up this year for ag land? So when value increases as much as they did, especially on agricultural, the state does adjust. There's a tier limit on agricultural land. Right now, it's roughly, $2.1 million. Anything below that goes at 0.5% for a classification rate. Anything above that goes 1%. Agricultural land has been increasing through the state. We are not the only ones that are seeing these significant increases. The state actually increased that limit to over $3 million, but they didn't put it into effect until next year. So what's happening is that the states, their maximum amount that you can get it at 0.5 isn't really keeping up with the farm market that is currently doing it. So what happens is that you get more of the properties going over that 1%, and some of those properties then are seeing significant tax impacts. If it was all at 0.5 and now it went all at 1%, you're doubling your taxes on that parcel. The same with the homestead exclusion. They have not adjusted that in quite a few years. They did again pass in legislature this year to change that, but again, for whatever reason, they deferred it till next year. So next year, the homestead exclusion is increasing as well as the agricultural limits, but you will not see that impact until your 2025 taxes. Thank you.
So would you cover the residential also has that homestead, go through that real quickly?
Right, so the residential also has that homestead exclusion, and there again, last year, we saw significant increases on our residential due to the housing market. And there again, a lot of the tax or properties completely are no longer qualifying for that homestead exclusion due to the value increases. But this change in law would help them as well as the house, garage, and 1 acre on agricultural, unless the state does something with it.
And if you do wish to come to the microphone, can you please just state your name?
Sure. Galen Hauk, 1399 Jefferson Street Southeast. I know and understand that the state gives you formulas, and can you guys do any pushback on that? I mean, we have a totally out of control governor and legislature that could not possibly spend more money, so they're going to take everything they can get. And my taxes are, what, $500 a month?
Yeah.
Is my real estate taxes, and I don't have anything special. So if there's any way you guys can give any pushback, I know you have to follow the formulas. If you can give any pushback on the formulas and tell them that people are not happy with this, and don't say we can vote them out, because we can't. We've been trying that for years. So anyway, that's just my comment.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you for your comments, Galen. Yes, go ahead.
Excuse me, Sue. Sir, I thank you for understanding, and thank you for making yourself educated. But we have pushed back in different ways. Individually, Commissioner Kruger and I have done some things. The board meeting that was held right before this, we talked about this AMC conference, and many other rural counties similar to us have these same problems, same conversations. Commissioner Kruger is going to give you the lecture about elections have consequences here in a second, and he's right. But we are trying. We're losing, but we are trying to push back where we can. At least that's how I feel. I'm just one voice, but that's how I feel.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
I'll skip it then, as long as he stole my thunder. But no, Mr. Hauk, we have to try harder on the elections, but that's a side note. We have to try harder. Without that change, we're done. And it pushed back as far as Sue's office is concerned. By what she said, by trying to hold the numbers down, we got kicked. I mean, we got, and this isn't the first time, so I'm kind of proud of Sue for keeping on trying, but the numbers changed so fast that I deal with the same stuff, but I've come to the conclusion that we have to try harder and really try. I mean, I don't know what to do, but you're absolutely right. And I, like Joe, I appreciate that you understand. A lot of people just don't understand.
Mr. Chair? Good. And thanks for the comment. I want to say that, I think it's everyone's responsibility to deliver that message to our state legislators. Yes, we can as a Board of Commissioners or McLeod County staff, but I think it also falls upon our population as well to get that message across. So thank you.
Any other questions for Sue?
Then if anybody does want to talk about their individual values, I will be going into the next room there. You're more than welcome to join me at any time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. So after Sue has completed the county valuation determinations, tax capacity is calculated, followed by tax calculation. This screen, I'd like to review a few of these definitions. So a levy is the amount of money that a taxing authority needs to operate, and the money is raised through their property taxes. The tax base is the total value of taxable property within the community, and the tax capacity is a parcel's taxable market value multiplied by the class rate for that type of property, and the class rates are mandated by Minnesota Department of Revenue. The tax rate is the portion of the total taxable value of property needed to achieve the levy dollars, and so the rate is calculated with the levy divided by the tax capacity. Total local tax rate is the total of all the rates within the taxing authority authorized to levy the taxes. So it would be all of, if you're in Hassan Valley, it would be Hassan Valley, it would be the county, it would be the school district, etc. All of those districts added together. This chart lists out the certified and proposed levy dollars of all taxing authorities in McLeod County and the resulting percent increase or decrease in those proposed levies. McLeod County's proposed levy increase is 5%, and I will pause just for a moment to let you have time to review your individual taxing authority information. This chart provides a 3-year comparison of McLeod County's tax levy by fund. The tallest fund in orange is the revenue fund, which includes expenses for employee health care, payroll, technology, and capital repairs, among others. The Minnesota Department of Revenue's 2024 preliminary property tax levies report indicated that the Minnesota County average levy increase was 6.7%. So in 2024, our proposed, if approved at 5%, McLeod would be below the average by 1.7%. In 2023, just for reference, McLeod was above average by 0.6%. This chart shows the distribution of the tax dollars. You will note the county has a 41% of the property tax dollars, which is steady from 2023 data. An increase over 2023 were the schools with 1%, and the resulting decrease was state general tax of 1%. So what does the county do for you? McLeod County delivers a wide range of services to a growing and changing population. There are services that the public has come to rely on, and we are here for you to maintain your roads, maintain your property records, protect the health of the community, protect the environment, provide justice, and provide protection. Excuse me. The next couple of slides will show how changes in classification, value, or rates may impact your tax statement. This happens to be a parcel in Acoma Township. 2023 to 2024 taxable market values have decreased minimally, only by 100. And 2023 and 2024 classifications differ from agricultural non-homestead to commercial. And then you will note the differences between 2023 and proposed 2024 due to the higher commercial class rate of 1.5% versus the ag non-homestead class rate of 1%, resulting in the higher tax capacity and an 87.83 total tax increase. This parcel actually, if it was valued higher, the taxes would be higher because it does fall within the first $150,000 of exclusion from state general tax, so there is no state general tax right here. If it was over 150, there would also be state general tax. Okay. The next parcel is a parcel in Hutchinson Township. 2023 and 2024 classifications are consistent at ag homestead. The local tax rate actually decreased 4.5% between the 2 years, and the 2024 taxable market value increased by $195,100, resulting in a 24.18 total tax increase. And the last sample of these tax statements I will go through, this is a parcel in Penn Township. 2023 and 2024 classifications are consistent at ag homestead. 2023 taxable market value decreased a little bit by 700, and the local tax rate decreased 10.59 between the 2 years due to the municipality keeping their levy consistent and the total tax capacity of Penn Township increasing by 26.5%. So these factors netted the 9.06 total tax decrease for this parcel. The properties with multiple classes or tiers, if a property has more than one classification or tier, the taxable values of each portion are multiplied by their respective class rates and then summed as the net capacity of the property. So for example, a residential homestead has a class rate of 1% for the first 500,000 of TMV and a rate of 1.25 for value over 500,000. I'm going to just give you an example and try to, draw this out for you. So example A, with the tier level, a $600,000 taxable market value, $500,000 NTC of 5,000 at the county rate of about 48 is 2,389, and then that second tier of $100,000 with an NTC of 1,250 and the county rate of 47 is 597 for a total of 2,986. But let's say that there was no tier level. If you had a $600,000 taxable market value property, and then the NTC is the 1%, so $6,000 with a county rate of about 48, the taxes would be $2,867, so that's $119 less. So the tier rates really do make an impact on the taxes. This chart provides a 3-year comparison of the taxable market value, net tax capacity, tax increment, and local tax rates. McLeod County's local tax rate decreased from 2022 to 2023 by 7.09%. And if approved, the proposed 2024 will decrease from 2023 by 3.57%. McLeod County's 10-year average local tax rate is 55.22, and McLeod County's proposed 2024 levy is 7.44% lower than the 10-year average. Let's see. The last slide I think I have is a chart of proposed levies per capita comparison. This chart shows the 2024 proposed levies per person, essentially what each person in the county would pay towards the levy. McLeod County ranks 35 out of 87 counties for 2024, and that actually is the same number as last year. The orange bars represent the neighboring counties, and you can note the higher per person amounts for counties with higher agriculture parcel counts, so Renville and Sibley, where they have less population, but just as less population to account for the payment. And then you'll note the lower per person amounts for heavily populated counties with more commercial industrial properties, and then they have the higher tax base, like namely Carver and Wright. The maroon bar represents McLeod County with $763 for each person. And then the taupe bars off to the right represent similarly populated counties in the state. The average of the neighboring counties, orange bars, is 853, and the average of similarly populated counties, taupe bars, is 722. So McLeod County does fall below the neighboring counties by 90, and it falls above the similarly populated counties by 41. All right, again, there is an opportunity for public comment or questions.
Yeah, Lloyd Olson from Hutchinson.
Yeah, I think we're going to have you come to the mic if you can.
Bring him.
Do we have a portable? We'll have it coming your way. Hold on.
Yeah, Lloyd Olson from Hutchinson. And on our proposed property taxes, it came with some letters we don't understand. It's never been on there before. It's TCA, and then it's got linked property 1 through 5. What does that mean?
So the TCA is the Tax Capacity Authority. It's not a real common acronym. It's kind of used by our tax system. It's your district is what it is. That code on there is your district code. And then you asked about the linked properties. Those are actually not separate parcels. Well, they could be, but they're not always. In our tax system, we have separate records for some parcels, and it's the records that it's the count of. Thank you.
Yeah, on our, it says 1 of 5 on one of our pieces and then 4 of 5, so on the linked property. Linked to what?
They're your separate records of your parcel. So Stefan, if you want to take their name and number, I can certainly call you afterwards. Thank you. Okay, any other questions? Next, I'll turn the presentation to the McLeod County Finance Director, Colleen Robeck, who will review the McLeod County budget and levy information.
I thought so.
Thank you, Connie. Thank you, Connie. Budgets were sent out to department heads and outside organizations in early June with the directive to keep the operating budgets at a 0 increase. Budgets were returned to the Finance Department in early July and reviewed with the Budget Committee through August. The Budget Committee worked with department heads for potential cost savings and reviewed outside organizations' requests to keep increases at a minimum. The preliminary budget was approved on September 19th with a 5% increase to the 2024 tax levy. The levy increase was used to balance the general fund budget and increase the levy dollars for debt service and social services. The final levy will be adopted at the December 19th County Board meeting. The total levy can decrease but cannot increase from the preliminary levy that was set in September. These are the funds that impact the levy. As you can see, the general fund has a net of 0 with the increase in property tax levy there. The road and bridge fund has expenditures in excess of revenues. However, the difference will be paid from local option sales tax funds for county road projects. Social services is budgeted to use fund balance to cover the additional expenses over revenues. McLeod County's fund balance policy does meet the requirements of the Governmental Accounting Standards Board and the recommendations of the Minnesota State Auditor's Office. These funds do not impact the levy, and solid waste is planning to use fund balance for capital purchases as well as the special revenue fund. This is the breakdown of revenue by fund. The general fund makes up the majority at 39.6%, road and bridge at 30.8%, solid waste at 2.8%, special revenue at 1.5%, human services at 22%, and debt services at 3.3%. And this is the breakdown of expenditures. The general fund makes up 34.6% of the total expenditures, and it is also broken down by classification. So general government is at 14.4%, public safety at 12.3%, public health at 4.6%, culture and rec at 1.9%, conservation and natural resources 1.2%, economic development at 0.2%. Road and bridge makes up 32.8%, solid waste 3.9%, special revenue 6.3%, human services 19.7%, and debt services at 2.7%. Here are the general fund capital requests that were approved in the budgeting process. And I'll just give you a minute to look at those. Here's the rest of the capital expenditures that were approved in the preliminary budget. The total levy assets are at $2.2 million and non-levy dollars 4.2. At year end, the county's outstanding debt levy is $12,305,000 with additional debt of $6.6 million for a total of $18.9 million. Here's the comparison of tax levy over the last 10 years. The average increase in tax levy over the last 10 years is 4.64%. And here are some things that affect the budgeting process. Some of the cost drivers are the county bears the cost of underfunded federal and state mandate services. And then service demand. Our service demand continues to increase for health and human services programs such as child support, financial support, family child care, foster care, adult and child protection, mental health, disability services, vulnerable adult investigations, MIN choices, vaccination clinics, WIC clinics, and many other services. And then as a service organization, McLeod County's wages and benefits make up 40% of its expenditure budget. Personnel wages and benefits for 2024 are budgeted at $27,933,000. And the health insurance costs continue to rise as well. McLeod County's health insurance plan premiums increased by an average of 7.7% for 2024, with 5% of that increase at the county's expense. Capital expenditure requests keep McLeod County buildings and equipment in good working condition. And technology maintenance is necessary to keep up with hardware and software requirements for the various programs that we use within the county. And then some of the cost relievers is McLeod County received $6.9 million in funding from the American Rescue Plan, and we are using these dollars for capital purchases within the county that would otherwise require levy dollars. McLeod County continues to review staffing requests and look at opportunities for efficiencies. And then for long-term planning, McLeod County is working on adopting a parks plan and using ARPA funds to make those improvements. And then the last one, the local option sales tax revenue covers the cost of county road improvements as well as covers the bond principal and interest on the bonds that were originally issued. And then I'll open it up for any questions that you have for me.
Can we go back a slide? Okay, I just wanted to comment, because I know I've already heard some feedback, and I just want to avoid some less. We use the ARPA funding. Well, first of all, the lost money, the local option sales tax speaks for itself. I mean, it's been successful, and it offsets a lot of work in transportation. But I want to comment on the ARPA money, because there's been comments. We scrutinized, our committee scrutinized and used it where we could. I mean, I've had people ask me, well, why didn't you use it over here? It was because we couldn't. So we utilized it in the best way possible and still use the money. Is there a better way of saying it? I don't know, but we used the money because it was there. I mean, for instance, on some fair and trails, no, we couldn't use it. It fit in that category. So the option was, well, yeah, you didn't have to do it, but we had the money to use for it, and we couldn't use it anywhere else. So I'm pretty happy the way that stuff fell in place, and I don't know if anybody else wants to comment on that. I get a number of questions on that, and I think we did the best we could and put it where we could get some benefit out of it, especially for the residents of McLeod County.
On the topic of ARPA funds, and one thing I don't have in front of me is exactly where we've invested those funds. I'll call on our administrator if she can quickly remember where we put some of those money, and I think especially bringing up the radios that were purchased for law enforcement and all that safety personnel countywide that would have wound up on everybody's levy had we not done that.
I don't think that this microphone.
It works.
Hi. The ARPA means American Rescue Plan Act dollars, and that's actually the third round of COVID-related relief funds that came in. So CRF, we have a committee that Commissioner Kruger was referring to, and that's the Coronavirus Relief Fund Committee, if you can believe it. We had to make one of those. Every township, which some of you are from, and cities had to make a committee of people or have their board or whoever manage their funds, because cities of a certain size got certain dollar amounts, and there was a calculation, and the county received over $6.8 million clean?
It was over 6.9.
Okay. And the interest that's received on those funds could be used however. So we tried to be careful with that throughout. We allocated $500,000 to the HRA, which is the housing for McLeod County. Housing, I'm really sorry, I don't know what it stands for. Housing Redevelopment Authority. Then we had the parks and the fairgrounds, which we allocated $2.7 million to. A portion of that's being used for the building that's being built for events at the fairgrounds, and that will be very helpful. And then John Jerebeck, our new parks manager, is working on a lot of different activities based off of the park plan that's nearly completed, and was sharing actually the signage with myself and Commissioner Wright this week for feedback, and that was helpful. We bought the police radios, like Commissioner Wright mentioned, for all of our municipalities. Hutchinson had already bought theirs for the police department, so we paid for some of the upgrade features and also for their fire department, I believe. Is that correct?
I think so.
Thank you. So that was very good, because then those municipalities didn't have to use, some of them would have used up all of their money, or they wouldn't have even had enough. Anything else you want to know significant out of those? There's other spending. We've done a report on it often, but we're almost to the end, so we don't talk about it as much anymore. I'm sorry. Colleen?
Yeah, we had a Lake Marion improvement project. $1 million went towards our Glencoe Highway shop, so that didn't affect the levy when that was built. Veteran services, we've given $10,000. Wetland projects, $45,000, and several small other ones besides that.
Do you have the dollar amount for the radios?
Armor radios were $1.8 million.
Yep. So that is a special safety radio system that allows all safety personnel to talk very efficiently, and that would have wound up on everybody's levy county-wide to replace that, but we were able to pull those dollars out of that fund, which is big, really, really big. So.
And the point I was trying to make was that we went through it all and tried to use them in the best places possible to offset levy, or use them in places where we could. I mean, there was scrutiny on how and where we could use them, and we still had to make sure they were used right.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
And if I can, I did not serve on the fund committees, but I appreciate the work that they did. And I do know that their concern was sustainability in the investments that were being made. It was also a concern how we can benefit every person who lives in McLeod County. Those were high concerns that I heard coming out of the committee, and the scrutiny that they gave when that money was allotted and distributed. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yep. Everyone, this is your time to ask those questions. So please come to the microphone, or we'll bring one to you, and get those out.
Maybe go over what's next.
Yep, sure. Okay, so if there are no other questions, what is next? The final 2024 McLeod County budget and levy will be considered at the December 19, 2023 County Board meeting. And just a reminder, final levies can be set lower, but not higher than the preliminary levies. I want to thank you for your attendance. Certainly, if you do have any questions following the presentation, contact me, and I will either help you or point you towards who can help you. My contact information is on the screen. And I guess if there is no other further business to conduct, I would entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting. Thank you.
This will be the last call for anyone that will approach the board with your concern. Okay.
This is Terry Wendorf, 21751 38th Street, Hutchinson. I'd just like to echo the comments I had earlier that taxes keep going up and it gets to be a burden. So, and I did have a question on a calculation. So, is there an opportunity to ask this afterwards, or do I ask it now?
Certainly, I can talk to you afterwards, Terry.
Okay. And just another example of a pretty extreme increase on a parcel. So, thank you.
Just an example of an increase on a parcel, just to let you all know, here in Newfoundland either. I had one 70-acre parcel that went up 72%, and it had everything to do with the fact that the legislature did not keep up with this homestead deal. So, are they going to hear about it? Yeah. So, any other questions or concerns to come before the board, before our finance department, before auditor treasurer's department tonight?
Mr. Chair, move to adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn by Commissioner Nagel. Is there a second?
Second.
A second by Mr. Kruger. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, everyone, for coming. We'll continue our work.
thanks for the people that show up, and again, we don't like catching heck, because there's a lot of things we have no control over, but the points were made tonight that a lot of ours is coming out of the state, and I'm looking forward to possibly change things next year, but we'll see. See how it goes, but